Chance to network, and so I'm going to start the industry panel too. And the first speaker is Jenette Ramos, and she is the Vice President for Supply Chain Management, Boeing Commercial Applications. And let me read a little bit about her background. Is the Vice President for Supply Chain Management for Boeing Commercial Airplanes. In this role, Ramos leads supplier management commodity groups in their work with the supplier partners to meet the needs and expectation of airplane programs, commercial aviation, services, and development programs. Jenette is a graduate of the Harvard Business School Advanced Management Program. She earned a master's degree in business from Seattle Pacific University and a Bachelor of Science degree from Washington State University. I'm pleased to welcome Jenette.
Yeah, I was hoping you would keep that brief. And, just disregard the Harvard thing, because I spent 25 years with the Boeing Company. And of the 25 years, probably 20 years in our manufacturing production facilities, wearing steel-toed shoes every day. So I also come from the school of hard knocks, not just the finishing schools. Okay, yeah, school of hard knocks. Yes, very good. You know what? I think that is such a valuable process that we underestimate, whether it's on-the-job training or what it is that we actually do in the factories. And I can talk some more a little bit about that, but I have you after lunch, so I know what after lunch crowds do. They yawn, they nap. This room is also very warm, so if you get bored, I'll pick on you. So I'll say, hey, you're wearing a nice peach shirt there. What do you think? So look out. Okay, so let me see. Where's the clicker thing? There's the clicker thing, and where's the mouse thing? Okay, good. So one fun trick that I like to do is not talk a lot. So we're going to show a video first to describe a little bit about what we do as the Boeing Company, and that'll give you context for the rest of my talk, which is really managing a dynamic global supply chain. So we'll do that first. And volume is somewhere. Yeah, just enter it. Okay, good. So that was my recruiting video. Professor, sorry. But, you know, no one told me I couldn't just say, hey, come work for the Boeing Company. And also, you know, I did mention I've been with the company 25 years. Stumbled into the company really as a summer student. And that's another tip or a piece of advice if you're looking for it. You know, when you venture into your summer periods where you think you just want to take a break, and I saw a bunch of slip and slides in those sorority houses or something along the street, right? I would suggest instead maybe you want to go find a summer job that's relevant to your area of interest. Because at the time I stumbled into the company, and I literally stumbled because my mom is a doctor. That was my track. I was going to do that. I was really, that was my enforcement my entire life. And then all of a sudden I had this summer job at Boeing as an IT person because we had this generation gap 25 years ago where we were no longer having to build Fortran cards, where we actually were working with PCs and Macs. And my first PC was an 8086, by the way, if you really want to know how old I am. And I paid an arm and a leg for it. But my point is, they invited me back the second summer. And why did they invite me back, even though I didn't graduate yet? I think there's an important aspect about really getting in there, being fearless, and wanting to learn, wanting to be part of the team. And so invited back my third summer as a full-time employee, as a facilities engineer. So that's a little bit about myself in case you're interested. I come from a technical background, and in my 25-year journey with the Boeing Company, I can tell you it's been a blast the entire time. I don't know that there's a time that I've never had fun. I've been to 25 different Boeing facilities around the world. I've been to about 15 to 20 different countries around the world, and we get to do the stuff that goes boom and zoom, and really the stuff that connects and protects the world. And so currently based out of Seattle, Washington, we have customers in more than 90 countries. We really are an engineering and manufacturing company. We can talk a little bit later if you're interested in our thoughts about vertical integration versus distributed production system. Certainly we have a lot of R&D, and I know we work with Purdue University in our technical aspects, and we have many graduates who are just wonderful leaders in our company. More than 172,000 employees, 50 states. So those are our background stats. Just to give you some context in terms of our enterprise footprint, when we talk about our supply chain is large, it's complex, it's everywhere. In fact, I like to say, I got drafted into supplier management last year, by the way, and now they call me the chief shopper, which I kind of like. That's fun. The chief shopper, and we get to buy wings and things, we buy minerals, we buy absolutely everything that goes into that airplane. And I'll show you how many parts that we're really trying to manage logistically, but we're globally positioned. And when we say globally positioned, we actually mean a presence in the community. We're not just there as an outsider in country. We actually hire in country, and we get to know the culture, because we need, in order for us to be most effective, we have to be part of the culture. We have to contribute to the community, and everywhere on this footprint, we have Boeing employees who understand that value. All right, so some of our logistics in the Boeing commercial airplane area, you can see there, a 737 is a little complex, a few 100,000 parts. A 747, on the other hand, 6 million parts. And at the rate in which we're growing our company, which we will grow our company by over 50% over the last, in this 3 to 5 year period. It's a very complex, dynamic supply chain. And do we have all the answers? No. Do we have a lot of lessons learned? Yes. And we're trying to take those lessons learned and apply them to the way we think about supply chain management in the future. Because what was past a traditional approach to supply chain management, largely contracts-based procurement, is really not how we do it in the Boeing Company. We're a very diverse workforce in the commercial side, about 2,700 supply chain professionals, And some are technical, industrial engineering, manufacturing engineering. It's not just about the contract. It's not just about the interface to the supplier. It's a diverse team that you need to manage the supply chain organization of the future. In terms of just sheer numbers, we're approaching a place where we're going to be managing over 1 billion parts, and these are highly technical, very high-value parts. I'll show you some pictures there. We also, in a supply chain management world, we manage over 60% of the value of the product. By the time we deliver to the customer, well over 60% will have passed through our hands in the organization. So what's our mission? What do we do? So in our organization, we use words like proactive. We use words like leadership. I found the academic piece a little interesting earlier. One of the components of our future skills that we need is also project management. The whole idea of cross-functional teaming is really critical because we have to lead during the entire life cycle of the product, from the development end to the services end. And I'll show you our processes for that in a second. So we lead the development and continuous improvement. So you can't just, accept the part as it is today forever. We expect continuous improvement, and that's a shared value, so that over time we have a sustainable competitive advantage. And earlier someone mentioned Caterpillar products have long lives, right? So do Boeing airplanes. In fact, the 737, when it was first designed and built, late 1960s, and they are now approaching 50 years of life cycle in the industry. These are our objectives. So when we say we are going to be successful as a supply chain organization if we understand and support the entire life cycle, that continuous improvement is part of our culture, we're engaged in the very front end of the process, and that suppliers prefer Boeing because we believe suppliers have choices. They don't have to work with us, and that's where it's critical that relationships are formed and that they're enduring over time. Right, so just to give you an idea about our business and where it's going, the business is actually looking pretty good. If you look at our current market outlook, we've been producing this statistical study for over 30 years, and we've been generally in the 3 to 5% range of accuracy. So when we forecast the business, my point is that we actually hit the forecast. And in this case, looking towards the future, here's the need. Oops. Here's the need. $4 trillion over the next 20 years. That's over 33,000 airplanes that are going to be needed in the market. And so they're going to be largely single-aisle airplanes. That's industry speak. Okay, so small airplanes, 737 size. And then the bigger airplanes we call twin-aisle airplanes. That's that large kind of red space and then the orange space there. Those are our 777s. So the point of this chart is to say the market is looking really good, but the competition is really fierce. So over the last couple decades, our competition has been largely Airbus. But this dynamic is changing now. So why is this relevant to the supply chain professional? Well, because we have to get costs out of the system, we have to find the best technology to put into our product, and we have to innovate so that we can compete with a whole new set of market entrants. And what happens when you have supply and demand and other choices to your market? What happens? I know we have MBAs in here. Remember supply demand curve, pricing. I did pass that course. So it affects the pricing dynamic of the product. And what's happening is in these blue spaces, the Russians are coming up with their small airplane. The Chinese, they're coming up with the C919. And of course, we have Embraer in Brazil. And so they're all creeping up in what we would consider be our smaller jet market space. And as a result, competition is very fierce right now, and to what we would consider an unprecedented level. And it's absolutely critical that the supply chain professionals actively engage in product improvement and cost reduction of the value stream. So I'll give you a little bit of context point. Over the next 5 years, I'm going to spend $200 billion. And out of the $200 billion, I need to find $5 billion of cost reduction. And if you do it on a percentage basis, you know, that's not a very high percentage. In terms of real dollars, that is very hard to do, very easy to say. And if you run a manufacturing facility, you know that taking a 3% productivity or even a 5% productivity target every year is a very hard thing to do. And what we're shooting for is 15% in order for us to compete in this market space. Now, how do you think that conversation goes with the suppliers? It's not that easy. And so one of the things, and I was sitting there and listening all morning, the conversations we have with our suppliers, they need to be truthful, they need to be honest, they need to be really direct. We need to collaborate. We need to find a way to continually improve, to get productivity out of our value stream. And it's really, it's not an easy job to do. So you have to be tenacious, you have to be courageous. And you know, maybe we could add that to some of the attributes of the people that we also look for. Because as it turns out, we did a recent survey of our team, just a small sort of spot check. And the people that we hire, turns out they don't like to negotiate. So why did we hire them? So, you know, I would venture to say that 20% said they didn't like to negotiate. Well, you know, we need to have that chat up front. So, because you can't be successful, right? Okay, so we need to work on that. But here's another fun part of the business. You know, we're constantly, not only are we growing in volume in the factories, we're also inventing new product. And what's critical in our business, the airplane business, is lead time. We're looking, see those little tails out there? We're thinking about a new 777X. We're thinking about maybe a 7X7. And we're thinking 2019 delivery. Well, in order for us to make a 2019 entry into service delivery, we actually have to start designing and building and creating the facilities well in advance, more like a 6 to 7 year lead time. The other thing that happens, and we have a lot of lessons learned on the 787, you know, concurrent invention with production, that doesn't work very well. Yeah. Was there a class on that? Maybe we didn't, you know, pass that one. Because it's true. Some of the lessons learned right now is our project management skills to look out and to really make an assessment of risk and execution. Those are, again, easy to say, hard to do. Lead time management is very critical in this world, but it's although this is very fun, because if you're a supply chain professional helping in the product development side, you're out there literally scouring the world for the best technology to make our airplanes more efficient, more fuel efficient, more aerodynamic, more cost effective, and you get to bring technology to the product. And you know, if you're a supply chain professional coming into from out of school and you've got technology at Purdue or somewhere in you know, London that you can bring to the aircraft, you can make a difference in how we produce our work. All right, so I mentioned to you earlier, I see some squinty eyes. So now I'm going to play another video, wake you up a little bit. I want to just show you what our production system really looks like. It is very dynamic. And this is the 737 production line. It is a moving line. It's implemented every lean principle you could think of. Six Sigma was applied as needed. There are a lot of tools in the toolkit when it comes to developing a lean production system. And I'd just like to give you a quick example of what Okay, so my point in showing that video is the pace. So does everybody understand tack time? Okay, good. Tack time and the number of products that we have to build a month, right? So that 737 line in half the space builds twice the amount of airplanes that it did about 15 years ago. Okay, so if you ever get a chance to go to our Renton plant, just to see that, it's very dynamic. Now, why is it relevant to all of you? When you think about supply chain logistics, what do you think about the logistics of that factory? Every little detail counts. And in order for us to continue to improve the line, we have to engage our suppliers. They have to come in and help us, whether it's repackaging the product that they build and deliver to us, or even the timing. So I think many of you probably study the Toyota production system, and you know how precise they are when everything comes together. That's what we're really trying to get to here. And our inventory carrying methods vary depending on the type of commodity in the product. So it could be just in time, it could be consignment, it could be a min-max system. But for us in supply chain, for me in particular, we have to have confidence that the entire production system, all 5,000 factories, is producing to the heartbeat of that line. And that's just the 737 line. Now we're producing 5 other programs, and we have to have all of this synchronous production underway. And one of the things I'd like to show you then is at a factory level, how do we really sync up to the tack time and the heartbeat of final assembly? And it's my expectation for any supply chain professional that comes to join our team that they really understand the production system, because that's the value that you add. You add it by improving our production system. So let me show you how we do it on the floor.
The benefits of having a moving line is efficiency, standardization, point of use, and ergonomics. most important thing about a moving line is efficiency. It brings every individual up to the same level of standardization and process during the build. All the tools, all the kitting allows the operator to build it the same, and also the line basically moves at a pace to where everybody is building it at the same time. Each assembly is also built in 5 different stages. The kits are all laid out in the order of the build sequence. When you hit the button, the kit presents itself. Nuts and bolts and washers are laid out in the order that you need them, and the kits they're right there at your fingertips. The tools are exposed in the order that they're needed to run down that particular fastener that you install. You use the same tool at the time you need it each and every time. And the exact socket is on the tool, and the tool is also chucked up to air. You do not need to leave the area to go retrieve a tool, retrieve anything else that you might need to build the assembly. Everything is on the moving line. It's ergonomic because the operator doesn't have to wrestle with the part. The table rotates. The table raises and lowers for different height of people. I like the moving line because it makes my job easier. It's more efficient. I'm not wrestling with the part. Everything is at the line when I need it, at the time I need it.
Okay, that moving line was developed in about a 6-month period. And that operator, when we started, was not really into lean. By the time he was done, he was probably one of our most passionate champions when it came to lean. But we couldn't have accomplished that moving line without a supply chain logistics professional getting in the game and understanding that you have to kit the details in order for that operator to be successful, right? So the complexity and the breadth of what we expect of our supply chain professionals extends from the nuts and bolts that get kitted on the floor to the multi-million-dollar contracts that we have to negotiate. So we have a huge challenge, and it's really a fun, dynamic place to be. That's my second recruiting speech. Okay, so this is the airplane, how it's broken up and what happens, but you can see our suppliers, they're around the world. It's very global. This is 787, brand new, fully carbon fiber airplane. So let's see, is the steel plant still in the room? Sorry. Okay, it's carbon fiber. Yeah, well, a little bit of steel, a little bit of aluminum, mostly titanium. That's the logistics. We move our parts around the world in the Dream Lifter, which is a big, ugly, guppy-looking airplane. But essentially, our transportation challenges are enormous. But I wanted to give you an idea of what does the product look like when it comes into us with pieces, and the logistics challenges that we have to make it synchronous to the final assembly lines. And then this is just the commercial side of the business. Okay, so on the defense side of the business, there are 300 different programs, and some if I said to you, somebody would probably shoot me because those things are secret. But here's when we say the life cycle. So this is a fun little chart because a supply chain professional can engage in any one of these stages. We have supply chain people who their 100% job is to find out where all the R&D centers of excellences are around the world. And so we have targeted them. We believe we have located them, and we're engaging in finding the best technology for our product. Design, we have to be right up front in the design space because our salespeople don't really understand lead time, and sometimes. And so, those simple chairs in the auditorium, you can imagine what the first-class seats in our airplanes would take to build. There's an 18-month lead time to build a first-class seat because they are so complex nowadays, and all of the electronic gizmos that we put into them, and safety features and certification, meeting the FAA safety requirements is a #1 priority for us, not to mention in our quality management system. So I won't go through all the bubbles, but my point is in every stage of this life cycle, a supply chain professional has an opportunity to really engage and add value to this production system. And then just a couple more charts. A large part of what I do every day, my job, is risk management. So we talk about requirements, we talk about relationships, and there's also the risk management for our production system. And we sort of categorize these risks, and I heard one of our speakers earlier talk about the FEMA process. But as complex as our system is, that process, we apply it where it's applicable. But business relationships are a risk, you know. Consolidation and change of ownership, which is what the steel industry has been experiencing. In our industry, there are certain commodities that continue to consolidate and change ownership. And when that happens, relationships change. And in almost every one of these categories, we have a specific radar keeping an eye on that aspect of the business. We have a financial health index that we look at for every supplier that supplies to us. So we know, if someone's working capital or cash flow is diminished to a point where they might put our system at risk. Every one of these areas we have a risk radar keeping an eye so that we can be predictive, we can be proactive, and always protect our production system. So here's my summary slide, my get off the stage chart. Hopefully by the videos and by some of the slides you can see that we are a global company. Innovation is global, and I know someone said it earlier, you're competing with a global workforce, not just a U.S. workforce. And the cooperation is absolutely imperative. What we do every day is risk management. But the opportunities are tremendous. It's a lot of fun, and it adds value to the community, and it's a sustainable industry that we expect to continue to thrive in and take out our competitors. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.